Good morning. It's Wednesday, the 14th of April, 2021. Oh, happy morning to you from Nace. What am I looking at? It's looking partly cloudy, not a bad day out there. I'm looking forward to a good day today. I'm getting things ready for Sunday. We're studying the Millennium in Bible study on Sunday night. Looking forward to that and preparing for that work today. And just plugging away and waiting on God to let it get us out of this prolonged supposed lockdown that we're on. But God's in charge of these situations. That's kind of what I want to look at today. We're still in 1 Samuel talking about David this morning. Some things that David did in his battle with the giant Goliath. And as he was talking about going to war and going to battle against the giant, everybody said, David, you can't do that. And the king said, you can't do that. And his brother said, you can't do that. Everybody, what's this little boy going to do? Or this teenager, this young man, what's he going to do against this giant? And they tried to do, they said, so they kept trying to stop him. So David tells him of his history. He tells Saul, I used to keep my father's sheep. And when a lion or a bear came out and tried to take the lamb, he says, the lamb of the flock, I attacked them. I delivered from bears and lions. And then he says down in verse, and then he said, and this is going to be just like this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he's defied the armies of the living God. David knew that he was not going to fight Goliath by himself. He was just a tool of what God was going to do to defeat the Philistines and defeat Goliath. And verse 37, moreover, David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. Boy, David had it nailed. David said, look at all the things God has done in the past for me. God's got me through these victories. He's going to do this victory for me this time as well. James kind of says the same thing. James says we count it all joy when we fall into all kinds of trials, because those trials teach us patience. They teach us that we can wait on God, and they teach us that God's going to carry us through. Therefore, when we have that patience, we become mature, trusting God and depending on Him. And we look at situations today, the years go by, and especially those of us who've been Christians for a long time, we look as the years go by and, excuse me, some new trial comes along. We wonder, well, what's God going to do this time? And we can get fearful and fretful and stressful because we don't see a way out of this one. But you know what? David didn't see a way how he was going to beat Goliath either, but he knew that God had given him strength in the past, and he knew that God was going to give him strength this time. And that needs to be my attitude. That needs to be our attitudes. When we're facing seemingly insurmountable struggles, we need to look back and say, wait a second, God's carried me this far. God is going to get through this thing. I may not know how it's going to turn out, and it may not always turn out the way I want, but God's going to get me through this. Somehow, some way, God's going to get me through this. Doesn't mean it's not going to be a hard time. It doesn't mean we're going to have an easy road, but it does mean that God has been there before, and God can take care of this situation as well. And that's a huge promise, a huge relief when we face the temptation or face a trial, that God is going to get us through this, or God will, and then God's going to go through this with us. Let's take comfort in past victories, that God's going to continue to take care of us. The victory may be totally different than we expect, but God will give us the victory through the situations that we face, because He set a track record. He's always cared for us. He's always been there, and He's going to be for us in the future. So let's have a David-like faith as we face the new giants that come into our lives, that by the grace of God and through His strength, not our own strength, He's going to carry us through like He's carried us through everything else. And let's thank Him for that. Take care, guys. God bless.